few months ago, I was walking around near where I live, and I was given a flyer about an anti-racism event. It was near where I live, and obviously I don't like racism, so I thought I'd attend to see what it was all about. When I first got there, I was handed a copy of a socialist worker. This confused me a bit, as socialist countries have been responsible for some of the worst race-based genocides ever, but I sat down to hear what people had to say, and there was a young refugee giving her account of what it was like to leave Syria, which was really interesting to hear firsthand. Unfortunately, the event was somewhat hijacked by a series of speakers trying to promote left-wing politics. The event was recorded and a shortened version was put online, so I'm able to play a few extracts. The compere was somewhat politically partisan. Listen to this.
Less than 10% of the population think that George Osborne doing more cuts is a good idea. In other words, 90% think it's a bad idea. But they don't want people to think about that. Instead, they want to direct people's anger about the cuts and about the problems in Britain on people that have nothing at all to do with it. And I think that's the backstory to what's going on with refugees. But with no further ado...
That's a bit crazy. For one, this was a few months before the Brexit referendum. If you remember, George Osborne wanted the UK to remain in the EU and has since lost his job following on from losing the referendum. So why would George Osborne want to push immigration as an issue going into the referendum? Doesn't make any sense. Catherine West, a Labour MP, also spoke. As an aside, Catherine is not my favourite MP. She retweeted David Lammy's view to ignore the results of the referendum, which would have been an act of unforgivable authoritarianism. Now listen to this.
Great to be here this evening, and big thank you to all the organisers for having Gay Stand Up to Racism. And I also wanted to thank Wayman, because he also helped to organise the September 14th day where we went down to outside Parliament on Saturday. It happened to coincide with Jeremy's election.
It happened to coincide with Jeremy's election. What are the chances, eh? Now, I could be being overly cynical, but what that sounds like to me is that a group that is there to stand up for racism has been used to support a particular political party. At the end of this video, hopefully you'll see why I think this is the case, rather than it just being a coincidence. Here is another speaker.
I wanted to read this thing to you because this is the Daily Telegraph, right? And it said on the 8th of August, it said Calais activists are having a march against the main camp for Britain to open its borders. And it said 300 well-heeled social activists and communist groups from London, one man from Tottenham led chants against David Cameron telling him to go to hell. And this journalist, that was me by the way, I'm not well-heeled.
So he doesn't deny that they're communists, and he's deeply proud of saying David Cameron can go to hell. I'm not a huge fan of David Cameron, but again, what has this got to do with racism? What else does he say?
March on the 19th is a march for everybody. You see, there are people on the streets that are disaffected and are being treated as a minority. They're called doctors and nurses, actually. And it's done by Hunt in that way, and he's doing it because he wants to get rid of the NHS.
Now, I have some sympathy for the junior doctors. I support the NHS providing a 7-day service, but I would have liked to have seen them get a bit of a pay rise. I won't talk at length about the disputes here, but what is this guy on about? Hunt doesn't want to get rid of the NHS, and what has this got to do with racism?
It's like that horrible picture. I don't know if you've seen, you know, David Cameron suddenly saying he cared about Nelson Mandela. Oh, he cared. He used to wear a T-shirt saying, "Hang Nelson Mandela."
No, he didn't. There might have been a few crazy people in the Conservative Party that thought that years and years ago, before Cameron even joined, but there is no evidence that Cameron wore a T-shirt saying "hang him." By the way, Thatcher heavily lobbied to end apartheid. She just didn't use placards and wristbands. This speaker does finally spell it all out though. Listen to this.
I think part of marching on the 19th is also to remember when people... So we make the link between racism and austerity. Because I think the two things are linked together. We also have to march against austerity, and also we have to march against racism. We have to pull them together. When we do that, I think we make a difference.
Ah, they have to pull them together, as that is the way that they can make a difference. They have to take a concept that nearly everyone is against, racism, and say it is exactly the same as something else they are opposed to. Like saying killing babies with hammers, something that everyone should disagree with, is the same as introducing English votes for English laws, something that people may or may not agree with. I ended up walking out of the event before the end, which was actually quite hard to do. if you walk out of a so-called anti-racism event, there's a risk that you'll be seen as racist. Last week, I got off at my local station and was met by people handing out these leaflets. This directly equates conservatives with racism. This is absolutely horrible. Now, I'm not a die-in-the-ditch conservative. At the moment, I think their policies are best for the country, but if they were to change, I would change my vote. What I really hate is I'm effectively being called a racist for how I vote. If this group was really about anti-racism, it would look to unite people across the political spectrum against racism. What it really is about is a covert, disingenuous method of recruiting people to the left. I'll leave you with one final clip from Catherine West talking to Gary Young from The Guardian. Bear in mind that just before this, we had heard a young Syrian girl talk about her difficult journey from Syria and how she was still separated from parts of her family. You can see how much the left really cares.
I'm going to leave it there because we've got a lot of speakers. I just also want to say how exciting it is to be on a platform with Gary Young. Because I've been reading his articles like forever. So it's lovely to be with you. I'm going to get a selfie later.